So here I'd like to show you a really cool technique for punching out some details in your texture using a really simple non-destructive technique here in Photoshop. So here again we have that messy brick wall, and if we kind of look at some of the stones that are on the wall, they're kind of flat. It's cool texture, but some of the surface detail is kind of lost because they're kind of, eroded or brushed or whatever. So we're going to go in there and restore some of these details really easily. The first thing we'll do is just duplicate the layer and then go to Filter, Brush Strokes, Accented Edges. This is just going to find what Photoshop thinks are the edges of the texture, and you'll be able to color them or change their width, change their brightness, and then smooth it out if you want to. Really interesting painterly look. Keep the smoothness at 1. Edge width I usually keep at between 1 and 2. For this texture we'll go with 1. And brightness we'll just go to something dark like 9, whatever. And then just go to desaturate next. Okay, hide that layer. Now duplicate it again. Filter, brush strokes, accented edges, and just set the brightness all the way up to something not too bright like that. That's too much. Do back off a little bit. Something reasonable like 30-ish. Hit OK. Once again, desaturate. Okay. Now set both of these new layers to overlay. Then add a layer mask to both, and invert both of those layer masks. So now we're set up. Okay, so this dark one here is going to be your shadows. This one's going to be your highlights. This not only punches out details, but it'll give you some, it can also give you like some edge wear or age look. I'll show you what I mean. So let's go to this kind of concrete pad right here, and just choose like your basic soft brush, something kind of small, and just start painting over the edges of the texture. You don't want to go and, if you go and paint over the whole thing, it's going to look awful. That's not what you want. You want to just selectively get in there and paint just the edges. And I'm using a pressure sensitive tablet to bring out the detail. You can see what's happening is it's that accented edges is really bringing out the details in these areas. And you're giving your surface a little bit more relief and a little bit more depth. It's pretty cool. Just to show you a comparison, if we just disable it, the surface is a lot flatter than it used to be, or it's a lot flatter now. And then when I add the effect, it punches out, even kind of gives that sharpening kind of effect to it too. So then let's just go to here, do the same thing. You can see it kind of restored some detail. So if I take it away, it's more flat, but if I bring it back, we get some roughness in there. That's pretty cool. You just want to kind of gradually, selectively paint. You're not going to paint everywhere, just around where the cracks are. You don't want the viewer to make the look, giving the impression that the image is processed. You just want to paint the detail where it needs to go. Okay, so that's shadows. Just do that selectively over the image. Then you can go with your highlights and just kind of do the same thing on edges of the stone. So like here's an edge that's jutting out. I might just kind of paint that a little bit there. Paint this one here. here where there's like a lot of noisy relief, this could be cool because there's a lot of information to paint in from that accented edges. You can see what's happening. Just bringing out those details. Works great on dark surfaces because then you can really start seeing the kind of edging and the speckling in there, and highlight that edge a little bit more. You can mix the shadows in there too. Just punch that surface out a whole lot more. Before and after. That's cool. And you notice you're still using the same, pixel density that's in the image. So like you're not taking away detail. It's the image is, becomes sharp because you're adding this local contrast. You're not just doing it over the whole image. You're just doing it where it needs to be. And that's what accented edges can do for you. It's almost like a local ambient occlusion, like real fine. Pretty cool. Now it's a rock texture, but it works on other textures too. If I go and grab this kind of manhole right here, I'll just quickly do the whole process again, and I'll show you what it can do. This will bring the brightness down, but I'll increase the edge width just because this is a pretty high-res texture. Desaturate. Set it up. Duplicate it again. Accented edges. Brighten it. Okay. This manhole will be pretty cool because this will be like also create some edge wear. So if I go in and go to these, kind of metal extrusions, and just paint around the edge, I get this really cool, scrape effect. If you wanted it bigger, all you gotta do is redo the accented edges with thicker edges, and you'll get a more pronounced effect. We can do shadowing. Make it subtle. Don't overdo it. If you're going in a PBR pipeline, you may not want to do this to your albedo. This might be something you do for your roughness or your specular. Cool.